Tom had lived alone on Mars for almost 5 years. His cabin stood on the edge of a red valley where no wind ever stopped and the ground was covered in endless dust. Once, this place had been a busy research post filled with scientists and explorers. Now only broken towers and rusted machines were left behind. Most people had gone to the newer colonies around Jupiter, chasing better lives. But Tom stayed. He stayed because he had nowhere else to go. He stayed because he loved the silence. Every morning he woke to the soft hum of the life support system and the soft red light that slipped through his cabin window. He would make a cup of powdered coffee, check the air filters, and then sit by his console to study radio signals from space. It was the only thing that made him feel connected to the rest of the galaxy. His job was to collect and analyze cosmic noise. Most of it was useless static, but sometimes he picked up strange signals that did not fit the normal patterns. He saved those recordings in a folder marked unsorted. He told himself that maybe one day one of those signals might mean something. Maybe it could be proof that humans were not alone. That night, the sky outside the dome was quiet. The stars burned bright and sharp through the thin Martian atmosphere. Tom sat in his chair, staring at the screen in front of him. Lines of data scrolled across it, each line showing energy levels and frequency ranges. Everything looked normal until one of the readings began to blink. A soft pulse appeared on the lower graph. It repeated every 10 seconds. Then it grew stronger. Tom leaned closer. He tapped the control keys and adjusted the filters. The signal cleared into a pattern that looked almost like a heartbeat. He frowned. It was too regular to be random space noise. He pressed the record button and started analyzing it. The pulse repeated again, but this time there was a brief pause followed by a second echo, then another pulse faster than before. It almost sounded alive. "What are you?" he whispered to himself. He zoomed in on the waveform and noticed a faint rhythm, something like a coded message. He tried translating it through the language software, but it gave no results. The sound grew louder through the speakers. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Tom froze. The screen turned white for a second and then filled with strange symbols. His heart began to race. He tried to shut down the system, but the buttons were unresponsive. The signal on the monitor began to flash bright blue, filling the cabin with an eerie glow. Then came the blast. A wave of light burst out of the console and spread across the room like lightning. Tom stumbled backward and shielded his eyes. His ears rang with a sharp hum that made him dizzy. When the light faded, everything went dark. The screen was dead, the air was still, and the only sound left was his own breathing. He stood there for a while, waiting for the emergency power to return. The red backup light came on a few seconds later, painting the walls in dim color. Tom sighed and rubbed his temples. His head hurt from the noise. "What was that?" he said softly. He checked the systems one by one, but nothing worked. The console had shut down completely. He made a note to check it again in the morning. For now, he felt tired. He walked toward the small bed in the corner of the cabin. It was narrow but warm enough for the cold Martian nights. Tom sat down, looking at the window beside him. Through the glass, the valley stretched out in endless red waves. The stars above seemed brighter than ever. He thought again about the signal. Maybe it had been some kind of cosmic storm, or maybe a strange reflection from the deep space relay. But in his heart, he felt something different. That signal had rhythm. It felt intentional. As he lay down, his thoughts wandered back to Earth. He remembered green fields, blue skies, and the sound of rain. It had been many years since he last felt rain. He closed his eyes and listened to the hum of the life support system. Slowly, his breathing softened. Tom dreamed of stars. He dreamed of vast cities built from glass and light, floating in the black sea of space. He saw figures with silver hair and golden eyes walking under twin suns. He saw their ships moving like birds, wings spreading in blue flame. One of them turned toward him and reached out her hand. He woke with a start. The cabin was quiet. The soft red light of dawn filled the room. For a second, Tom thought he had imagined it. But then he noticed something strange. The blanket beside him was not flat. It was lifted slightly, as if someone was lying there. His breath caught. He turned slowly and his eyes widened. There was a girl in his bed. She looked about his age, maybe younger. Her skin was pale with a faint blue shimmer that caught the morning light. Her hair spread across the pillow like silver threads glowing softly. She wore a suit made of a crystal-like material that pulsed faintly with light. Tom froze. His mind tried to make sense of it, but nothing did. He had gone to bed alone. He had locked the cabin door. The dome's scanners would have detected anyone entering, yet she was here. He took a step back, afraid to move too fast. The girl stirred slightly and turned her head toward him. Her eyes opened slowly. They were bright gold. She looked at him for a moment, confused and frightened. Then she whispered something in a soft, melodic voice. The words were unlike any language he had heard. Her body trembled as she tried to sit up but fell back weakly. Tom's heart pounded. He wanted to speak but could not find his voice. He finally said, "Who are you?" The girl did not answer. She closed her eyes again, breathing shallowly. Tom hesitated for a few seconds, then hurried to his console to check the life support readings. The cabin's oxygen levels were normal, but the air pressure had slightly changed. The console screen flickered for a moment and then displayed unreadable data. He turned back to the bed. The girl was still there, motionless except for her breathing. He could not just leave her like that. He fetched a thermal blanket and gently placed it over her. Her skin was cold to the touch. Tom sat beside the bed, watching her. She looked peaceful now, almost like she was sleeping. He studied her face and noticed a small crystal embedded near her collarbone. It pulsed with light every few seconds, matching the same rhythm he had seen in the signal. His eyes widened again. That signal from last night. It must have been connected to her. Somehow that pulse had brought her here. But how? Tom rubbed his forehead. It sounded impossible. Yet she was lying right there in front of him. He checked the clock. It was still early morning. The communications array was offline, so he could not send a message to anyone. He decided to wait until she woke again. Hours passed. The red sunlight shifted across the room as the day went on. Tom spent most of the time repairing the damaged console. He cleaned burnt circuits, replaced wires, and rebooted the system. Finally, the main screen flickered back to life. The signal logs were still there. He opened the file and replayed the recording. The strange blue pulse appeared again, and this time he noticed a sharp rise in energy at the final burst. It matched perfectly with the time when the lights had gone out and she had appeared. Tom sat back, stunned. He looked at the girl again. She was still sleeping, but her breathing was stronger now. The crystal on her chest glowed brighter, casting faint reflections on the metal wall. He wondered if it was some kind of life support device. As he sat there, he thought about what to do next. If she was from another world, then she might be in danger. Someone or something might be looking for her. If the authorities found out, they would probably take her away for study. Tom could not allow that. She was alive, scared, and helpless. He decided to protect her until he knew more. By evening, the cold began to creep into the cabin again. Tom placed another blanket over her and sat down near the heater. He opened his small notebook and began to write everything that had happened. He noted the time of the signal, the power failure, and the moment she appeared. When he finished writing, he closed the notebook and leaned back. The stars outside the dome were starting to shine again. He looked at her one more time. Her face was calm, her golden eyes closed in deep rest. He wondered who she really was and what kind of world she came from. Tom whispered softly, "You are not supposed to be here, are you?" The crystal on her chest flickered once as if answering. He smiled slightly. For the first time in years, the silence of Mars did not feel so lonely. Something new had come into his life, something beyond understanding. He turned off the lamp and lay back down on his side of the bed. The hum of the systems filled the room again, gentle and steady. Outside, the red planet turned under the stars. Inside, a man and an alien lay under the same roof, their fates quietly bound together by a signal from the deep unknown. The red light of Mars poured through the window and spread across the room. The cabin was quiet except for the soft sound of the life support machine. Tom sat in his chair beside the bed, holding a mug of coffee that had already gone cold. He had not slept much. His eyes kept returning to the girl sleeping under the blanket. She looked peaceful now. Her chest rose and fell with a slow rhythm. The crystal on her collarbone still glowed softly, sending a small light across the wall. Tom could not stop thinking about how she had appeared. One night he had gone to sleep alone, and now an alien girl was in his bed. He had checked the door locks twice, checked the air system, and even scanned for any trace of teleportation. Nothing made sense. The only clue he had was that strange signal from last night. Tom finished his coffee and stood up. He wanted to see if the console could show more information about the signal. The screen flickered again but stayed steady this time. The data from the night before was still recorded. He slowed down the signal speed and listened carefully through the speakers. It sounded like a soft hum followed by short bursts. It reminded him of breathing. Every 10 seconds there was a pulse that matched perfectly with the rhythm of the girl's crystal light. Tom turned his head toward her. The pattern was the same. He felt his skin grow cold. He realized that maybe the signal was not just random energy. It might have been her call for help. Maybe she had sent it across the stars and somehow it reached him. He whispered, "Did you come here because of that signal?" As if answering him, the crystal flashed once. Tom froze. He stepped closer to her. Her breathing became heavier and her fingers twitched slightly. The blanket moved as she turned her head. He leaned forward carefully, not wanting to startle her. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing gold again under the red light. She looked at the ceiling for a moment, confused and weak. Then she turned her gaze toward Tom. Her voice came out soft, shaky, and filled with strange sounds. Maury. Tom could not understand, but the tone sounded like she was asking something. He pointed to himself and said, "Tom, my name is Tom." She blinked slowly, trying to repeat it. "Tom." Her voice was melodic, almost musical. She looked around the small cabin, her eyes wide with curiosity and fear. When she saw the window showing the red valley outside, she gasped softly and whispered a word he could not understand again. Tom gently said, "You are safe." "No danger here." She did not reply but relaxed slightly. Her eyes closed for a moment as if she was gathering strength. Tom went to the counter and poured a small cup of water. He brought it back and placed it near her. She looked at it strangely as if unsure what it was. He lifted it slowly, showing her to drink. She took it in both hands and sipped carefully. When she finished, she whispered, "Water." Tom's eyes widened. She had learned the word. He nodded. "Yes, water." She repeated it, this time clearer. Her voice was gentle but strong. Tom felt a small relief. She could learn. Maybe they could talk, even if slowly. He sat down near her bed again. "Who are you?" "Where are you from?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then touched the glowing crystal on her chest. "Mira," she said. "Mira," Tom repeated. "That's your name?" She nodded weakly. Then she pointed upward toward the ceiling and said another word he did not know. Her hand trembled as she spoke. Tom guessed she was talking about her world. "You came from the stars?" he asked. She looked at him and nodded again. Her golden eyes reflected the red sunlight, and for a moment Tom forgot that she was not human. There was something kind in her eyes, something that felt close and familiar. After a few minutes, she began to speak again, slowly and carefully. Many of her words were strange, but some started to make sense. She used gestures and pointed to things to explain. Tom understood bits and pieces. She told him she was from a place called Veor, a planet far beyond the human colonies. She said her ship had been attacked by a fleet. She escaped using a device that sent her across space. Tom listened carefully, trying to connect the dots. "That signal," he said. "Was it your device?" Mira nodded. She said the device was meant to teleport her to safety, but something went wrong. It sent her across too great a distance and damaged the beacon. She said she did not know where she was now. Tom looked at the window. "You are on Mars," he said. "This is a human colony planet." She frowned, not knowing the name. He pointed outside. "Mars, small world. Humans live here." Mira looked out the window again, eyes wide with wonder. "Red world," she whispered. Tom smiled a little. Yes, Red world. She seemed to like the name. She repeated it softly. Red world. For the next hour, Tom helped her drink water and eat a few small pieces of dried fruit. She seemed unfamiliar with the taste but ate slowly. He checked her temperature and pulse. The glowing crystal on her chest appeared to adjust with her health. Every time it pulsed softly, her breathing improved. After she had rested, she tried to sit up. Tom helped her carefully, placing a pillow behind her back. She looked weak but grateful. He asked, "Are you hurt?" She shook her head slowly. "Tired," she said. Tom smiled. "You can rest. You are safe here." She looked at him for a long moment and then said softly, "Thank you, Tom." Hearing his name from her voice made him pause. Her accent made it sound gentle, almost like a song. He nodded. "You are welcome, Mira." The cabin was quiet again. Outside, the red wind blew across the valley. Inside, Tom sat on the floor beside the bed, thinking about what had just happened. He had dreamed for years about finding proof of alien life. Now one was sitting in front of him, but she was not just any alien. She said she was a princess, a word that carried weight even in her broken English. That meant she was important, maybe even a target. If her ship had been attacked, then her enemies could still be searching for her. Tom realized the danger. If they traced her teleport signal, they might come to Mars. He stood and walked toward his console. He had to check the scanners. If there were any foreign signals in orbit, the system might catch them. But when he opened the data feed, the radar showed nothing but empty space. Still, he did not feel calm. He turned back to Mira. She was looking at the small plants on the shelf by the window. They were the only green things in the cabin. Her eyes brightened as she touched a leaf carefully. "Life," she said. Tom nodded. "Yes, small plants, life," she smiled for the first time. It was a quiet smile, soft and pure. Tom felt something shift in his chest. He had spent years alone, and now he found himself protecting someone who came from the stars. It felt unreal, yet deeply real at the same time. He asked gently, "Can you tell me more about your home?" Mira took a deep breath. She began to speak slowly, forming words mixed with gestures. She described her world, Veor, as a planet with 2 suns and silver oceans. The sky there was light purple, and the people lived in floating cities above the sea. She said her people used crystals to power everything, from ships to cities. Tom listened with fascination. Every detail she gave painted a picture of a civilization far beyond human reach. She said her father ruled Veor and she was his daughter. That was why the enemy fleet wanted her. They wanted control over her world's technology. Tom felt anger rise in him. The idea that anyone would try to destroy something so beautiful made his blood boil. He looked at her and said firmly, "No one will hurt you here." Mira looked at him, unsure what the words meant, but she could feel the emotion behind them. She nodded softly. As evening came, the red sky outside turned darker. The stars appeared one by one, and the cold air filled the room again. Tom started the heater. Mira sat quietly, still watching the stars through the window. After some time, she asked in a faint voice, "You alone?" Tom hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I live alone here." She looked sad for a moment. "Why?" He smiled faintly. "Because I like quiet, and maybe because no one else wanted to stay." She tilted her head, thinking about his words. Then she said softly, "Not alone now." Her simple sentence hit him harder than he expected. He smiled back at her. "No, not alone now." For the first time in years, Tom felt warmth that did not come from machines or sunlight. It came from another soul sitting beside him, someone who had fallen from the stars yet somehow felt close. He looked at the crystal on her chest, still glowing softly. Maybe fate had brought her here. Maybe that strange signal had been more than a random event. It felt as if something larger had connected them. Outside, the wind howled across the Martian valley. Inside, 2 beings from different worlds shared a quiet moment under the same roof. As the night deepened, Tom promised himself that he would keep her safe, no matter what came next. He did not know how far her enemies might reach, but he knew one thing for sure. Humanity would not abandon someone in need. And so, as the red planet slept under the stars, a lonely man and a lost princess began a story that would soon shake the silence of the galaxy. The next morning came with a pale red glow spreading across the Martian valley. Tom woke up before sunrise as usual. He turned on the heater and checked the oxygen meter on the wall. The cabin was still stable, but power was running lower than he wanted. He rubbed his eyes and looked toward the bed. Mira was sitting up now. Her golden eyes were open and bright. The faint blue light from the crystal on her chest flickered like a living pulse. She looked stronger than before. "Good morning," Tom said softly. Mira smiled faintly and said, "Morning, Tom." Her voice was still a little weak, but she spoke with more confidence. She had learned a few new words overnight from the translation pad Tom had given her. She had spent hours repeating English words from the device, learning slowly but carefully. Tom walked to the console and checked the data from the night before. There were no new signals. The beacon energy trace from Mira had faded. He turned back to her. "How do you feel?" he asked. She thought for a moment, then said, "Better, warm, That's good, Tom replied. You need rest. You went through something powerful. Mira touched the crystal on her chest. Beacon, she said. It hurt. Energy low. Must fix. Tom sat down beside her and nodded. Yes, I think I can help. I studied alien energy patterns before. Maybe I can repair it if you show me how it works. She looked surprised. You help? Tom smiled. Of course. You are not alone here. She watched him carefully as if trying to decide whether to trust him. Then she nodded and held out her hand. The small glowing crystal detached from her suit and floated above her palm. It hummed softly like a tiny heartbeat. Tom leaned closer. It's beautiful, he said. Mira nodded. Life crystal. Power of Vior. Only few people can use. It keeps me alive. Tom looked at the crystal with interest. The energy pattern inside it looked like a moving storm of light. He had never seen anything like it. He brought his small scanning device and waved it gently near the crystal. The readings were strange and unstable. It seemed to run on both energy and biological signals. Can it be repaired? He asked. Mira pointed to a small crack near the edge of the crystal. Need balance stone. I lost it when I escaped. Tom frowned. Balance stone? She nodded. Small blue crystal. It connects power. Without it, beacon weak, Tom thought for a moment. If we cannot find that stone, maybe we can make something similar. There are energy crystals in the old human mines east of here. They are weak, but maybe enough to stabilize it. Mira looked at him with hope. You can make? He nodded. I can try. Tom stood and started preparing his rover. It was a small two-seat vehicle he used for collecting soil samples. It was old but still strong enough to travel across the valley. Mira watched as he packed tools and oxygen tanks. She asked, Danger outside? Tom nodded. A little. Sandstorms and cold. But we will go together. I cannot leave you here alone. Mira hesitated. I can walk now, Tom smiled. Good. Then let us find your balance stone. Within an hour, they were driving across the red plains. The rover bounced over rocks and dust, leaving a long trail behind. The sky was tinted with pink light as the twin moons began to fade. Mira sat beside Tom, her silver hair glowing faintly under the sunlight. She watched everything with wide eyes. Your world is quiet, she said softly. Tom nodded. Yes, not many humans left here. Most went away. Why? They wanted more. Bigger cities, more light. I liked silence. Mira looked out the window. Silence is sad when alone, she said gently. Tom smiled a little. You are right. They drove for hours until the land changed. Ahead, a tall cliff rose from the ground. Below it was the entrance to an abandoned human mine. The sign above the gate was half buried in dust. Tom parked the rover and opened the outer door. Stay close to me, he said. Mira followed him into the mine. The air inside was dry and cold. Their flashlights cut through the dark, revealing old metal walls and empty containers. The place had been silent for years. After walking deeper, Tom found the old crystal chambers. The walls shimmered faintly with blue fragments. Mira's eyes lit up when she saw them. This is same energy, she whispered. Tom took out his tool and began cutting small samples. Mira guided him, pointing to the ones that glowed strongest. The two worked quietly together, the sound of the tools echoing softly through the tunnel. While Tom packed the samples, Mira sat beside a broken wall and looked at the ground. My people use crystals like these for everything, she said. We grow cities with them. They sing when alive, Tom smiled. That sounds amazing. Humans use machines. They do not sing, she looked at him. But humans dream. That is strong too. Her words made Tom pause. He realized she saw humans differently from how he did. To her, humanity was special because of its spirit. They finished collecting the samples and began to leave the mine. But as they reached the exit, Tom's scanner beeped sharply. He stopped. Something is near, he said. Mira turned quickly. What? Tom adjusted the scanner. A faint energy signal was moving above them in the sky. It was not a storm. It was metallic. Mira's face went pale. Hunter ship, she said. Tom looked up through the dusty air. A small dark shape crossed the sun. It was silent but fast. Did they follow your signal? He asked. She nodded slowly. They find me. They come to take me back. Tom's heart began to race. We need to go now. They ran back to the rover and climbed inside. Tom started the engine and turned the vehicle toward the valley. The dust rose behind them as they sped across the plains. The scanner beeped again. The ship was following them. Mira looked back. They scanned ground. They know. Tom pressed harder on the accelerator. The rover bounced over rocks. Hold on, he shouted. The sky darkened as the small ship descended lower. A beam of blue light swept across the ground. Tom turned sharply into a narrow canyon, hoping the rocks would block their signal. The rover skidded but stayed upright. Inside the canyon, they stopped to catch their breath. Mira held the crystal close to her chest. They will not stop. They must not find beacon. Tom looked at her. Then we make it stronger before they do. Once it works again, can it send a message? Yes, she said. It can call my people. But it needs energy stone. Tom pulled out the bag of blue crystals. Then we will fix it tonight. They drove back toward the cabin, hiding their tracks in the sand. By the time they arrived, the sun was setting again, painting the valley in red and orange. Inside, Tom cleared his desk and set up his tools. Mira placed the main crystal carefully on the table. The small blue fragments glowed faintly beside it. Tom began connecting the wires from his power cell to a stabilizer. If I am right, he said, the energy from these crystals can fill the missing part. It might not be perfect, but it could work long enough to send a signal. Mira watched him closely, her eyes shining with both fear and hope. If it works, my father will find me. My world will know I am safe, Tom smiled. Then we better make sure it works. Hours passed as they worked together. Mira guided him using her knowledge of the beacon's design. Tom handled the tools with care, matching the alien energy to the human circuits. The small lab filled with a soft blue glow. At last, Mira placed the repaired balance stone beside the main crystal. The two pieces merged with a flash of light. The hum returned, stronger than before. It works, she said softly. Tom looked at the readings on his console. Energy stable. You did it. She smiled and held the crystal close. We did it. For a moment, the cabin felt alive with light. The beacon floated in the air, spinning slowly as it charged. Tom stared at it with awe. It was like holding a piece of living starlight. But then his radar beeped again. Mira's smile faded. They found signal. Tom's expression hardened. Then we have to finish this fast. Can you send a message to your world before they reach us? She nodded and placed her hands around the crystal. The light grew brighter. Strange symbols appeared in the air around her, forming a glowing circle. Her eyes closed as she whispered words in her own language. Tom watched the readings climb higher and higher. The beacon was transmitting. After a few seconds, the light faded. Mira opened her eyes, breathing heavily. Message sent, they know. They will come. Tom exhaled with relief. Good. Then we just need to survive until they arrive. Mira nodded but looked worried. The hunters will not stop. They will destroy all to find me. Tom looked around his small cabin filled with human tools and machines. Then they will learn something today, he said firmly. Humans do not give up easily. Mira looked at him, her golden eyes glowing with respect. You fight for me? Tom smiled. Yes, you came here by fate. Now it is my turn to protect you. Outside, the wind began to rise again, carrying the red dust across the valley. In the distance, faint lights moved in the sky. The enemy was coming. Inside the cabin, the beacon pulsed softly, carrying a promise across the stars. A human and an alien princess stood side by side, ready for what was to come. The red sky over the Martian valley was alive with movement. Shadows stretched across the sand as Tom and Mira prepared for what they knew was coming. From the horizon, small lights appeared, moving fast, cutting through the thin atmosphere. The enemy ships had arrived. Tom checked the cabin's old radar system again. The readings confirmed their worst fears. 3 hunter ships were approaching from different angles. They were small but highly advanced. Their shapes were sleek, dark, and sharp, reflecting the dim sunlight. Tom's heart raced, but he forced himself to stay calm. Mira stood beside him, holding the repaired beacon close to her chest. Her golden eyes glowed with determination. They will not stop, she said softly. Tom nodded. Then we cannot stop either. We need to be smarter. He quickly explained his plan. The old outpost has defense turrets. They were never used, but they still work if we can power them up. If we can lure the hunters into range, the turrets might give us a chance to fight back. Mira tilted her head. You fight like humans? Tom smiled. Yes. We fight when we must protect what is ours. They climbed into the rover, taking extra oxygen tanks and energy cells for the turret systems. The rover bounced over the rough Martian sand, leaving long red trails behind. Mira leaned forward, scanning the horizon for the enemy ships. They move too fast, she said. They sense energy of beacon. Tom adjusted the controls. We must be careful. Do not panic. Follow my lead. They reached the old outpost, a half-buried structure of metal and stone. Inside, rows of defense turrets stood silent. Dust had gathered on them for years, but the machines were sturdy. Tom began reconnecting the power lines, using both human circuits and Mira's guidance for alien energy. Mira touched the main crystal, sending pulses through the turret systems. The machines hummed softly, lights flickering as energy flowed through them. Slowly the turrets powered up. Tom stepped back and watched. It's working, he said. Mira nodded. Now we wait. Outside, the first hunter ship descended low, scanning the valley. Its sensors glowed bright blue. Tom could feel its eyes on them through the thin walls of the cabin. They see us, he said. Mira held the beacon tightly. Ready? Tom nodded. On my mark. The first ship moved closer. Tom hit a button, activating the turrets. A low hum filled the valley. The turret spun, scanning for the ship. When the enemy came into range, beams of concentrated energy shot out, striking the metal surface. Sparks flew as the ship tried to evade. The ship fired back. Blue lasers cut across the sand, hitting the walls near the cabin. Tom ducked instinctively, and Mira's hands glowed as she added energy to the turrets, increasing their power. The first ship exploded with a loud boom, sending a shockwave of dust across the valley. Mira exhaled in relief. One down, she said. Tom looked at the other two ships approaching. We are not done yet, he said firmly. The second ship was faster. It twisted through the air, trying to avoid the turret beams. Tom adjusted the targeting system, but it was too quick for normal calculations. Mira touched the crystal on her chest. Energy flowed into the targeting system. The beams followed the enemy with precision. Got it, Tom shouted as the turret hit the ship. It wobbled, sparks flying across its surface. The ship made a desperate maneuver, firing several energy bolts toward the cabin. One struck the wall, making a loud clang, but it did not penetrate. Mira's eyes glowed brighter. We can do it, she said. Tom smiled. Yes, together. The second ship lost control as the turrets fired again. It crashed into the sand, shaking the ground with a deafening impact. Smoke rose into the Martian sky. One ship remained. It was bigger than the others and flew higher, observing. Its sensors glowed red as it tracked them. Tom could see its weapons charging. This one was smart. It would not fall easily, Mira whispered. We must trick it. Tom nodded. I have an idea. Follow me. He guided Mira to the rover. They drove into a narrow canyon, twisting through the rocks and hiding behind natural cliffs. The canyon walls reflected light, confusing the enemy sensors. The ship followed them, sending out scanning beams. Tom adjusted the rover's speed and direction to keep them covered. Mira held the beacon steady. It will guide the turrets? She asked. Yes, Tom replied. But we must get it in position first. They reached a high point overlooking the valley. From there, they could see the final ship clearly. Its red sensors glowed, scanning for energy. Tom pressed a button on the control panel. The turrets powered up fully, and Mira sent a pulse from the beacon through the system. The last ship's sensors locked onto the energy source. Tom held his breath. Now, he shouted. The turrets fired in perfect sequence. Beams of light struck the ship, hitting its shields. Sparks and energy arcs exploded across the sky. The ship tried to dodge, but the combined human and alien technology was too precise. Mira's hands glowed as she added more energy, guiding the beams. We can do it, she shouted. The ship faltered, then broke apart in a bright explosion. Pieces of metal and sparks fell onto the valley floor. The enemy fleet was destroyed. Tom and Mira looked at each other, breathing heavily. Dust swirled around them, and the canyon echoed with the sound of the explosions. Mira's golden eyes shone with relief. We won, she whispered. Tom smiled. Yes, together. For a moment, silence returned. The Martian wind blew softly through the canyon. Tom and Mira sat beside the rover, exhausted but alive. The beacon on Mira's chest pulsed softly, sending small signals into the sky. Mira looked at him. Your people. Strong, brave, Tom laughed lightly. We fight when we must protect others. That is human, she nodded. Then your people. Like Vior, protect life. Yes, Tom said. We do. As night fell, the stars appeared in the red sky. The air was cold, but inside the canyon, Tom and Mira felt a warmth that came from trust and courage. They had survived the enemy ships. They had fought together, combining human knowledge with alien technology. Mira held the beacon close. Now my father will know. He will come, Tom nodded, and when he does, we will be ready. Humanity has not forgotten how to fight. She smiled faintly. I feel safe. With you. Tom looked at her, seeing hope and strength in her golden eyes. And I will keep you safe, no matter what comes next. Outside, the red wind of Mars blew across the valley. The stars shone brightly. The enemy ships were gone, but a new journey awaited them. Tom and Mira had faced the first challenge together and won. Inside the canyon, a man and a princess from the stars sat side by side, knowing that the galaxy was wider and more dangerous than they had imagined. But they had each other, and that was enough to face the future. The Martian valley lay silent under the pale light of dawn. Tom and Mira stood on the ridge overlooking the canyon, where they had fought the enemy ships. The sand was red and soft beneath their feet, and the wind carried faint echoes of the battle from the night before. The enemy fleet was gone, destroyed by the combined effort of human knowledge and Mira's alien technology. Mira held the beacon close to her chest. Its glow pulsed gently, sending small signals into the sky. Message sent, she whispered. Father will come, Tom nodded. And when they arrive, we will be ready. Mira looked at him with golden eyes. I am grateful, Tom. Humans. Strong, brave, protect life. Tom smiled faintly. That is what we do. Always. The quiet lasted only a few minutes. Then far above the horizon, the sky lit up with bright streaks of light. Mira's eyes widened. Ships, my people. From the distance, large vessels descended slowly, their hulls shimmering with silver light. They were beautiful, majestic, and powerful. Mira's heart lifted as the ships neared the Martian surface. Her people had come to find her. Tom stepped beside her, shielding his eyes from the glare. Stay close, he said. The first ship touched down near the canyon. Airlocks opened, and figures in silver and blue suits emerged. Mira recognized them immediately. These were her people, guards and scientists from Vior, trained to protect and assist. A tall figure approached, his robes flowing with light. He had silver hair and eyes that glowed like Mira's. Mira gasped. Father! The man looked at her with both relief and pride. Mira, my daughter, he said. His voice was strong yet warm. We have searched across the stars for you. Are you unharmed? Mira ran forward, almost falling into his arms. I am safe now, thanks to him. She looked at Tom. He protected me. Humans. Strong, brave. Tom felt his face grow warm. He bowed slightly. I only did what anyone would do. I protected someone in need. Mira's father smiled at him. You are brave indeed. Not many humans have the courage to face the galaxy alone. You have our respect. Tom nodded humbly. Thank you. Mira's father turned to look at the ruined canyon below. The enemy fleet? Destroyed? Mira pointed. Yes, he helped. Together, we fought them. The Vior commander studied Tom closely. Together? Yes, Tom said firmly. Humans never give up when someone is in danger. The commander's eyes softened. Then your people carry the spark of life across the stars. I see why Mira survived. Mira stepped forward. Tom, stay with me, please. Tom shook his head. I live here. My home is Mars, but I will help you any way I can. Mira's father smiled again. Humans are rare, but their courage is priceless. You will always be welcome among us. The Vior ships prepared to take Mira back to her home planet. Tom helped her board, carrying the beacon carefully. Mira held his hand briefly. I will not forget you, she said softly. Humans, strong. You saved me, Tom nodded, and you reminded me that we are not alone in the universe. Mira looked at the horizon, then back at him. I will return one day, she promised. The ships rose slowly into the red sky. Tom watched as Mira's vessel disappeared among the stars, leaving a faint trail of blue light behind. The Martian wind blew across the valley, carrying away the dust and echoes of battle. Alone again, Tom walked back to his cabin. The silence was familiar, but it no longer felt lonely. Something had changed. Humanity's courage, its will to protect, had made a mark on the galaxy. And he had been part of it. Tom sat by his console, checking the data left behind by the Vior ships. The readings were incredible. Mira's people had shared small amounts of information about faster-than-light travel, energy crystals, and advanced communication. It was a gift to humanity, a chance to grow stronger and reach further into space. He smiled. "Humans are still needed," he whispered. "We have a place in the stars." That evening, Tom prepared his small rover for a journey. He did not know when, but someday he would follow Mira's people or someone else like them to explore the galaxy. For now, he had to continue learning, strengthening humanity's knowledge. As he looked at the red Martian sky, Tom realized that the lonely nights were over. Life had arrived unexpectedly in his cabin, and it had left a promise. Humanity had not only survived, it had shined. He walked into his cabin and looked at the empty bed. The memory of Mira lying there, the golden eyes staring at him, stayed in his mind. He sat down, closed his eyes, and felt hope bloom within him. Outside, the stars of Mars began to shine brighter. Somewhere in the galaxy, an alien princess flew home, carrying the story of a human who had reminded her people that courage and kindness could exist in even the most distant worlds. Tom whispered to the empty room, "Sleep well, Mira. Your world is safe, and so is mine." The night grew deeper. The red planet, silent and vast, held a quiet memory of the battle, the victory, and the connection between two worlds. Humanity had sparked something greater than itself, a bond across the stars. Tom lay down on the bed, finally closing his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt the universe was alive with possibilities. Humans were small, yes, but they had courage. They had spirit, and they had hope. Somewhere out there, Mira's people celebrated her safe return. And somewhere here, a human man dreamed of the day he would see the stars again, ready to remind the galaxy what it meant to be human. The Martian night carried a quiet, glowing promise. The story of humanity had only just begun.